The hall was silent except for the low hum of alien machines. Cold blue lights reflected from metal walls and long shadows moved slowly across the floor. At the center of the chamber stood a human woman. She was chained, her clothes torn and stained from battle and travel. Her face showed signs of pain and exhaustion. Yet her eyes were awake, sharp, and burning with quiet fire. The alien leaders sat above her on a raised platform. Tall figures with pale skin and glowing eyes. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They had crushed species stronger and faster than humans. They looked at the woman and laughed softly. This was not what they expected. They had heard stories about humans. Savage fighters, brutal beasts, creatures of rage and muscle. Instead, they saw a woman who looked small and fragile. One of the generals leaned forward and spoke in a mocking tone. "So this is humanity's weapon." Another alien shook his head. "She is weak. Break her and the rest will follow." The woman did not answer. She did not beg. She did not lower her eyes. She simply looked back at them, calm and unafraid. That silence made some of them uneasy. Humans usually screamed, cried, or tried to fight. This one did none of that. The Emperor of the Empire finally spoke, his voice deep and slow. "How did one human reach our capital alive?" No one answered. The truth was, no one really knew. Human ships had been detected weeks ago near the border systems. Then suddenly, they vanished. The woman was found alone in a destroyed transport near the core worlds. No weapons, no backup, no distress signal. It made no sense. The Emperor looked down at her. "You are far from home, human." She raised her head slightly. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "Home is closer than you think." The aliens laughed again, louder this time. They believed she was trying to hide her fear. The Emperor waved his hand. "Take her to the holding chamber. We will decide her fate later." As guards pulled her forward, a sudden alert echoed through the hall. A sharp sound that cut through the laughter. An officer rushed in and bowed quickly. "Report from Outpost 7, he said. "All signals have gone silent." The room grew still. Outpost 7 was heavily armed, protected by fleets and defense rings. The Emperor frowned. "System failure," he said. The officer hesitated. No signs of attack, no weapons detected, just silence. The woman's lips moved slightly, almost like a smile. No one noticed it. The Emperor turned away. Humans are known for tricks, but tricks do not destroy empires. The woman was dragged through long corridors of steel and light. Alien soldiers whispered around her. Some insulted her. Some stared at her eyes and felt uneasy. In the holding chamber, the chains tightened around her wrists. A machine scanned her body. Weak muscle density, damaged bones, low energy levels. The system labeled her as harmless. She closed her eyes for a moment. In her mind, stars moved and paths opened. Plans formed, adjusted, and confirmed. Far away, beyond alien space, something shifted. Back in the throne hall, another alert sounded. This time louder, more urgent. A second officer ran in, fear clear on his face. Outpost 9 is also silent. Murmurs filled the chamber. 2 outposts did not fall without reason. The Emperor clenched his claws. Increase patrols, lock down communication channels. Still, no enemy ships appeared. No explosions. No warnings. Only silence, spreading slowly like a shadow. In the holding chamber, the woman opened her eyes again. She looked at the ceiling. Listening. Waiting. A guard walked past her cell and stopped. He stared at her eyes and felt something twist in his chest. Not fear, not anger, something worse. Understanding. He walked away quickly. The woman whispered softly, almost to herself. "They always think strength looks loud." Far above the planet, unseen by alien sensors, space bent and folded. Signals passed through paths the Empire did not know existed. The aliens believed they had captured a weak human. They believed the danger was over. They did not understand one simple truth. Humans did not always fight with claws or fire. Sometimes, they fought with patience. And this woman was not a soldier sent to win a battle. She was a message. And the Empire had already received it. The holding chamber stayed quiet for a long time. Only the soft sound of machines and distant movement filled the air. The woman sat still, her hands bound, her breathing slow and controlled. She looked weak to anyone watching. But weakness was only a surface. Deep inside the Empire's control center, alien analysts argued. Screens showed empty star maps where human signals once were. No ships, no debris, no battle signs. This is impossible, one analyst said. 2 outposts do not vanish without a trace. Another answered. Humans flee when they are losing, this means nothing. Yet their voices were tense. Their claws tapped nervously on metal consoles. In the throne hall, the Emperor listened to reports. Each one sounded worse than the last. More border stations were quiet now. Not destroyed. Just gone. Find the human networks, the Emperor ordered. Track their ships. The officer lowered his head. We cannot, he said. Our systems show interference we do not understand. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. He turned toward the guards. Bring the human. The holding chamber doors opened with a sharp hiss. The woman was dragged out again. Her steps were slow, but steady. When she stood before the Emperor, she looked smaller than before. Yet the room felt heavier. Like the air itself was waiting. You are doing this, the Emperor said. Whatever is happening, it leads back to you. The woman met his gaze. Her voice was calm, without pride or fear. You are watching the result, not the cause. The Emperor struck the floor with his staff. Speak clearly, human. She tilted her head slightly. You built your empire by taking worlds fast, she said. You never stayed long enough to understand them. The alien leaders laughed again, trying to hide their discomfort. You think words can frighten us, one general said. She shook her head slowly. No. I think time can. At that moment, alarms rang again. Short, sharp, urgent. An officer stumbled forward, panic clear in his voice. Core relay stations are failing. Navigation grids are unstable. The Emperor turned back to the woman. What have you done? She did not answer right away. She looked around the room. At the banners of conquered worlds. At the faces of rulers who believed themselves eternal. Then she spoke. Humans learned long ago, she said. You cannot beat a larger enemy by meeting it head-on. Outside the palace, the sky above the capital world shifted. Stars flickered in strange patterns. Civilian ships lost direction and drifted. Back inside, technicians shouted. Power levels dropped. Communication delays grew longer. The Empire was slowing down. Piece by piece. You are alone, the Emperor said angrily. Your fleet is gone. The woman smiled faintly. Gone where you can see. That answer sent a ripple through the room. Because it matched what the sensors showed. Nothing where something should be. The Emperor made a sharp gesture. Prepare her for execution, he said. End this now. As guards moved toward her, the lights flickered. For just a second, everything went dark. When the power returned, the woman was still there. Chains still tight. Body still weak. But the Empire felt smaller. Far away, hidden beyond known routes, human fleets moved silently. No lights, no open signals. Each ship followed paths calculated months before. They did not rush. They waited. Back on the capital world, the woman was taken away again. This time, no one mocked her. Soldiers avoided her eyes. Some felt fear. Others felt something worse. Doubt. In her cell, she closed her eyes once more, listening to the Empire strain under its own weight. She knew the truth they did not. The first blow is never loud. It is quiet. Invisible. And by the time the enemy hears the fire, the structure is already burning from within. The Empire moved faster now, but not smarter. Orders were shouted, fleets recalled, systems reset again and again. Yet nothing returned to normal. Navigation lanes shifted without warning. Supply ships arrived days late or not at all. Whole task forces drifted in empty space, unable to agree on where they were. The alien commanders blamed each other. Some said it was sabotage. Others said it was ancient space storms. No one said the word human out loud. In a deep command chamber, a senior strategist studied the data. Patterns appeared only when viewed slowly. Not attacks. Not battles. But small changes stacked together. Energy reroutes. Signal delays. Minor errors multiplied across systems. He felt a cold realization form. This was not chaos. This was design. At the same time, the woman was brought into a smaller room. No throne, no banners, just metal walls and a single table. A different kind of interrogation. An officer sat across from her, younger than the others. His hands shook as he activated the recorder. "Why you?" he asked quietly. "Why send one human?" She looked at him for a long moment, then answered, "Because empires do not fear armies. They fear ideas that spread." The officer swallowed. "You cannot win." She nodded slowly. "Winning is not the goal." That answer stayed with him, long after he left the room. Back in space, the first human fleet reached its position. They did not attack. They did not fire. They simply existed in the dark. Close enough to watch, far enough to remain unseen. On the capital world, citizens felt it before leaders did. Public transport stopped. Food deliveries slowed. News channels repeated the same messages again and again. The Empire had never prepared for silence. In the palace, the Emperor stood alone, looking at a star map that no longer obeyed him. How does a weak species do this? He asked no one. A memory returned to him. The woman's eyes. Not angry. Not afraid. Certain. Another report arrived, quieter than alarms. Our allies are withdrawing. They say our space is unstable. The Emperor realized something then. Empires are not destroyed from the outside first. They are abandoned. The woman was moved again, deeper this time. To a chamber meant for secrets, not prisoners. A general stood before her, voice low. "What do you want?" She answered without hesitation. "Time." "For what?" "For you to understand." The general laughed weakly, but his eyes showed fear. At that exact moment, a single human signal appeared on the main display. Clear, open, impossible to trace. Just one line of text. "We are watching." The room froze. The woman closed her eyes. Not in relief, but in focus. The message was not a threat. It was confirmation. The Empire had finally noticed the fire, but it was already deep inside the walls. And this time, there would be no return to silence. The signal stayed on the screen longer than it should have. Engineers tried to erase it, but every time they did, it returned. Clear and calm. "We are watching." Fear spread faster than any alarm. Because the message did not demand surrender. It did not threaten destruction. It simply observed. Across the Empire, commanders began to realize the same truth. They were not being attacked yet. They were being studied. The woman was taken once more, this time not as a prisoner. The chains were loosened, not removed. The guards kept their distance. She was brought before a council of military leaders. No emperor, no speeches, just quiet tension. One of them finally spoke. "Your people hide like ghosts." She answered calmly. "Only when monsters stop listening." Another leader slammed his claws on the table. "You crippled our systems without firing a weapon." She nodded. "You built everything to be fast. We built ours to last." Silence followed, because the damage reports now made sense. Nothing was fully broken, but nothing worked together anymore. That was the human way. Far from the capital, the first real human action began. Not an attack. A rescue. Small human ships slipped into disrupted sectors. They ignored military targets. Instead, they guided trapped civilian vessels out of failing lanes. Alien civilians watched in shock. The enemy helped them survive. Then vanished again. Confusion turned into doubt. Doubt turned into fear. In the council chamber, a leader asked the question no one wanted to ask. Why save them? The woman looked up slowly. Because when the empire falls, someone has to remember what came after. That sentence echoed longer than any alarm. Reports flooded in. More worlds refusing orders. More allies stepping back. The empire's grip weakened without a single explosion. The emperor finally returned. Older now, slower. He looked at the woman and spoke softly. You never meant to fight us. She met his eyes. No. We meant to stop you. Outside the palace, stars shifted again. This time clearly. Human fleets appeared at the edge of known space. Lights on, signals open. They were no longer hiding. The Empire watched as humans arrived not as beasts, but as witnesses, as judges. The woman took a slow breath. This was the moment she had waited for. The Empire had believed strength was loud. They had believed weakness was quiet. They were wrong. Because now the silence was gone. And what followed would change the galaxy forever. The human fleets did not rush forward. They stayed at the edge of the system. Close enough to be seen, far enough to remain untouchable. Alien sensors locked on them. Weapons charged. Orders were ready. But no one gave the command to fire. Because something felt wrong. The Empire had fought many wars. Every enemy came with noise, anger, threats. Humans came with patience. Inside the capital, the Emperor called an emergency gathering. Generals, strategists, governors from conquered worlds. All stood in one room, arguing, blaming, shouting. The woman stood among them, silent. No chains now. Only guards who watched her carefully. You forced us into this, one general shouted at her. You brought your fleets. She looked around the room, at faces full of fear and pride. Then she spoke softly. You forced yourselves. The room grew quieter. You ruled by fear, she continued. So fear is all you understand. A governor from a distant world stepped forward, trembling. Our people are asking questions, he said. They see humans helping civilians. They ask why the Empire never did. That single sentence hit harder than any weapon. The Emperor closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered the early days, when the Empire promised order and protection, not endless expansion. Outside, human ships began to broadcast openly, not threats, stories, messages from liberated worlds, from species once crushed by the Empire, speaking about rebuilding, cooperation, choice. Across alien space, those messages spread. Soldiers listened. Citizens listened. And they began to wonder. In the chamber, a strategist spoke with a shaking voice. Our control depends on obedience. And obedience depends on belief. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. The woman looked at the Emperor. This is why I came, she said. Not to destroy your cities, but to end your story. The Emperor stared at the star map. Human fleets holding position. No attack. No retreat. He understood then. The war was already over. Because his people no longer believed. Slowly, painfully, he lowered his staff. What do humans want? He asked. The woman answered without hesitation. A future where no empire decides who is weak. Outside, the first alien defense platform powered down on its own. Then another. Then another. Not hacked. Not destroyed. Abandoned. The Empire had burned. Not in fire, but in understanding. And the galaxy watched as history changed. Quietly. Irreversibly.